Why do you hate Tyreek Hill?
Wow, I see. Another spoiler, Justin Herbert is on my hot seat.
Yeah, as bad as the Bucs were, they still had Tom Brady. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden, co-founder of Legit Football. You know how we do it. We've just got a half hour of unfiltered, unadulterated, unscripted NFL talk for you. If you happen to catch the Legit Football pod earlier this week, you know that Kevin Phillip Fox is enjoying the wonders of France. Amazing country. So this is a great opportunity for our producer, Anthony Wader, to come from behind the scenes and join in front of the camera. Anthony, I know you always relish these opportunities. How are you feeling jumping back on 30 minutes?
I'm feeling great. I always love that text that says, "Hey, you're on tonight." I'm like, all right, let's do it. I love talking about football. It's even better when I get to do it with like one of the best football analysts that I know personally.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you know, I can text you that on short notice because I know you'll always be game. Like, I don't have to give you a lot of heads up and be like, "Hey, Anthony, you're coming on," and you're just always like, "All right." So because of that, I'm going to let you kick off the topics. You did mention you had something on your mind, so I'm glad that you have something you're ready to talk about. Maybe it's Detroit, Michigan. Maybe it's the helmets. I don't know. I'm going to turn it over to you, but you still have to run the timer. You are producing the show, so why don't you get that set up so we can get this party started. Right. Shout out while you're doing that, Armand. As always, I saw him a few minutes early in the chat, our number one fan. Shout out to Thomas, newest member of the Legit Football family, our resident graphic designer. What is up, guys? Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Anyone else who's lurking in the chat, feel free to say hi. And as a reminder, as always, we have things that we just want to talk about, but at any moment in this show, unlike the Legit Football pod, you can just ask us a question. You started the timer. I didn't even get 30 minutes of football with Legit Football started 12 seconds ago. All right, so as a reminder, yeah, if you guys have questions, you can stop us at any time and say, "Hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this?" That's the beauty of this show. Because we don't have a script, we can go off on a tangent at any time. Without further ado, Anthony, what's on your mind on this glorious Wednesday?
You pretty much spoiled it, but this morning there was a video posted with the Honolulu Blue Ford Mustang pulling up in front of Ford Field, and a familiar face grabbed his bag, and in that bag was a helmet, and it was the new alternate helmets. And I want to know your thoughts. I personally love these, and I'm a big history guy, so I love to see throwback logos being used, and I'm really excited to see these in play. It will be worn with the all grays against the Raiders and against the Vikings.
Yep.
And so I'm looking forward to that, but I want to know your thoughts.
So I think in general, my reaction anytime I see a new uniform, instant guttural, visceral reaction is just like, I don't like it. But it's only because it's different, right? And I was just like, it's just so different. You know, usually when they do these alternate uniforms, there's like, the colors might be slightly different. There's color rush and all that, right? But this was like a completely different, the lion looked different, there's stripes. But then when I watched the video and I saw what those stripes represented, and it was the stripes of the Mustang, you know, Ford, Detroit, Motor City, known for their car manufacturing. So the fact that they tied that in made me appreciate it more. And then I started seeing the lion kind of like the Mustang going across the stripes. And I'm like, you know what? It's grown on me already. I dig it. I'm looking forward to seeing it twice in the 2023 season.
So I will tell you, that was the 60s logo for the Lions.
Was it really? I didn't even realize that.
So some pretty iconic Detroit.
Okay, so that just, if I liked it at a 9, now I'm at a 10 with the historical nod there.
I had some merchandise with that logo, and I'm going to get more. So
you should.
You'll see me with the throwback hat this season. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said, it's I wait for the reaction to settle in, and then I analyze. But when I saw the actual, because I saw all the announcements before I saw the video, because it was all over social media. Hey, Lions have a new alternate helmet, and it took seeing the video and then understanding the reasoning. They didn't do it just for fun. It was like, oh, let's put a different color and design. No, it has historical ties to the city of Detroit and apparently to the Lions organization. I'm a big fan. 10 out of 10.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I love how everyone loves the Lions all of a sudden because it's been a bad few decades. So, but anyway, yeah. Armand. So they will be wearing it with all gray. That has been confirmed.
Armand in the chat, for those just listening, there are some people who just listen to the podcast and don't watch on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, all those places we go live. Armand says, I hope they wear the helmet with blue jersey and blue pants. He wants the all blue top to bottom with the new helmet. Not going to lie, I kind of want to see what that would look like. But as Anthony said, at least for this season, it'll be the all gray. If it's a hit, maybe they'll bring it back. 2 games, as you mentioned. I think it's week 4 and the final game of the season, if I'm correct, Anthony. Week 18. Yep. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing that. All right. As I mentioned, quick reminder, if you guys have any topics you want us to hit, go ahead. I do have a few things on my mind. One of the most... the one I have on here first is Sam Howell. So we've mentioned it a few times on the Legit Football Pod. We've had some stuff. Thomas has made some great graphics about Sam Howell and a lot of Commanders type stuff on our Instagram. So make sure to check out Legit Football Instagram. And then we just did our Legit NFC and we're breaking down these rosters. And I realized that the Commanders have maybe the top 5 roster in the NFC. Like it's crazy to think they didn't even make the playoffs last year, but a lot of that is due to quarterback play. Sam Howell, a lot of people don't remember this, and I even looked up just to refresh my own memory in the way too early 2022 mock draft. So after the 2021 college season, after the 2021 draft, when they start, all the experts start pinning who they think is going to land in 2022. By the way, some familiar names that ended up getting drafted. Kayvon Thibodeau, for one. A lot of these guys ended up getting drafted up there. A lot of them had Sam Howell early. I saw him as high as number 2 overall. Sports Illustrated, in their first 2022 mock draft, had Sam Howell. That's right, 5th round quarterback Sam Howell as number 2 overall. Todd McShay, in his first 2022 early mock draft, had him at number 7. And it was CBS had him outside the top 10, but he was the first quarterback taken. So that is a lot of hype around a guy who I think people have forgotten about simply because he fell all the way to the 5th round and hit the 2022 college season, or rather the 2021 season going into the 2022 draft, was not as memorable for him. So my question or topic to you, Anthony, is what are your thoughts on the Commanders? Like, we're seeing nothing but praise for Howell in OTAs and training camp so far, minicamp. And it's not just been like, oh, the normal praise. It's like, no, he's like way ahead of Jacoby Brissett, who, by the way, was an NFL starter last year, and a not too bad one. No. If this hype is real, this Commanders team, it's got to be kind of fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you this, Brian, I did not forget about Sam Howell. I had him in my mock draft back then. Every time that a quarterback issue was mentioned in Washington, my comment was, but they have Howell. That was always my comment. I'm like, they have Sam Howell on the bench. He's ready to play. Yeah, he's not going to go break records yet, but I think with the hype that led up to it, I think he can kind of prove that hype. He can kind of say, it's my turn to step up, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Is he's going to step up and make Washington probably a winning team, because you're right that there's a lot of talent on that roster, and even in that division, it could be a competitive division, for sure. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they could be competitive. I think defense they have to work on, but quarterback play, wide receiver play, Terry McLaurin is a top 5 quarterback in my head. It just depends on who's passing the ball, I think. And Sam Howell, this is his opportunity to break McLaurin out, as well as himself with their improved offensive line. And I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a great quarterback.
So I want to read, I did quick research. I literally typed in, why did Sam Howell fall in the draft? And we got a quote here from ESPN draft analyst Mel Kiper, the godfather of draft coverage, saying he's got a chance to be a starter, you would think. Remember, going into the year, we were talking, Todd McShay and I, about him being a first-round draft choice coming off a great year when he had Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, and Jazz Newsome. They all left, but he had Josh Downs and Ty Chandler running the football. Things just didn't happen the way they did. All the numbers came down, so his stats came down. Held the ball too long, had too many passes batted down, played a little short. 6'1.5", which we've had more successful quarterbacks at this stage in the NFL history. That's not the worst height that we've seen, but I think just 3,056 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions in 2021. Also rushed for 828 yards and 11 touchdowns. That's another thing people don't remember. He was a mobile quarterback who didn't just rely on his legs here and there. He nearly had 1,000 yards rushing. Very talented, at least talented enough to get all the top draft prospects to say, oh, this guy could be worthy of a first-round pick or a high first-round pick. I'm starting to wonder if Washington got a steal here and found their quarterback in the future in the 5th round. I know it's early. He's played one game, but guess what? Yeah. He looked pretty good in that one game. Beat up on the Cowboys, who went on to win a playoff match. So that's just what's on my mind is I'm starting to buy it. I'm starting to buy that Washington may have found themselves their franchise quarterback in the 5th round of the 2022 draft. Ron Rivera could end up keeping his job. Oh, and by the way, they have Eric Bieniemy calling offensive plays, who has been working with, a little guy you might know named Patrick Mahomes for the past several years.
Yeah. I like it. I have him in 2 of my dynasty leagues because I just see a bright future with how I think that Washington I
tried to trade for him today. I couldn't get him because I'm not gonna throw a first out there.
Yeah.
So I did try to slow play hey, because the guy in our league draft got him with a 4th. I'm like, hey, I'll pay you more than you got for him. He's like, no, I'm gonna hold on to him and see what happens. I was like,
smart guy. I like it. I think that if you had to compare him to, I know we haven't seen him much, but if you had to compare him to one of the greats, who would you compare him to?
That's an interesting question. He's mobile, but he's not a big guy. He's not like a Josh Allen type because we mentioned he's just over 6 feet. I don't know that there's a direct comp for him. Baker comes to mind, but I don't think that's more like the size thing. Baker had a lot more hype. Baker did go first overall. Maybe he had a drop in his stats in his senior year. I don't know. We haven't seen him enough. I need to see him more before I can put a comparison in there. By the way, the chat is quiet. I don't know if they're just oh, this is Sam Howell, whatever. Let us know, guys. If you're hanging out in the chat, what do you think of Sam Howell? Am I just buying into the off-season love fest, or is there a chance that this thing could actually? I'm fascinated by these kind of things that we look back on later. I'm trying to pinpoint a moment that everybody a year from now will say, "Wow, look how well the Commanders did." I'm trying to pinpoint that now to say, man, if he's good, they've got tons of talented running backs. An amazing wide receiver core with Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, quality tight ends, and Logan Thomas, a decent enough offensive line, a whole bunch of first-rounders along the defensive line, a first-round defensive back in Emmanuel Forbes that I'm really excited about. I mean, there's a lot to like about this Commanders team, but that's it. We've talked enough about Washington. Yeah. No one in the chat is still chiming in, so I'm guessing this is boring everybody. Anything else on your mind? If not, I've got more things to talk about here.
Yeah, Chase Young. I know
let's stay in Washington.
We're trying to leave Washington, but Chase Young, if/when they, kick him out, where do you think he's going to go? Where's his best fit? Do you think?
So this is a guy who, at this point, unless he has an amazing year, probably not going to get his 5th-year option picked up. He's going into year 3. Number 2 overall pick. One of those guys who's just physically dominating in college to where everybody thinks, oh, this guy's a slam dunk prospect. Some of it's been injury. Some of it has been a little bit of work ethic off the field in practice from what I've been hearing about him. But the talent is still undeniable. So you're going to get what kind of team could take a chance on a guy like this? It's probably not a rebuilding team unless you can get him really cheap. It's not a cash-strapped team. It's going to be a guy who can take a chance on him cheap and afford to pay him if he works out. So in other words, I think a contender who is also doesn't have to rely on him. That's another reason I don't think a rebuilding team can really work. Kevin Phillips Fox would love to hear this. A team like Buffalo, if they can clear the cap space. Von Miller, we saw how much they dipped on defense when Miller went out. If you can have another guy with that physical profile, like a Chase Young, and if he doesn't work out, you can just move on from him after this year. You're in that Super Bowl window. I could see Buffalo being a destination. How about you? Do you have anybody in mind?
I had really high hopes for Chase Young when he was drafted. He did okay. Then he got hurt, and then everyone's like, "It's just a downfall." He's so young to already be declining, and so he does need a team that he can build himself back up. And you're right, one of those teams it will be a contender. This is the analyst in me, not the homer in me, but the Lions would be one of those teams that could go pick him up. With Aiden Hutchinson.
I don't hate that. I could, yeah. And
Yeah.
James Houston, he could be a rotational piece until he proves himself. Yeah, that's actually a contender at least for division and playoffs, and a contender that hasn't been a contender ever, really. So why not take a chance on a guy like that to plug him in? And you don't need him necessarily, but man, if he works out, he could just be a wrecker on that defense.
Yeah, well, last season, Aaron Glenn rotated 3 guys in that position. So like every other possession, you would see a new guy playing that position. Sometimes it was Okora, sometimes it was Houston, sometimes it was Hutchinson. They rotated, and if you could put him in that rotation, because I guess that's Glenn's system, then put him in Glenn's system and see what happens. If it doesn't, you don't have to pay him.
Yeah, I like both of those as destinations. I want to highlight Armand. Finally, somebody mentioned something about my Howell rant. He said, in my opinion, Howell has the best weapons around him after the rookies and second-year quarterbacks. He certainly has lots of toys to play with, which maybe is one of the things that's buying into it, because I think situation matters a lot to these quarterback developments, right? I mean, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have been great anyway, but would he have been as great if he didn't land behind Alex Smith under Andy Reid? We just don't know. So the fact that Howell has so many weapons in Washington only backs up my case. All right, it is halftime. We will make this quick. Just going to remind you to check out the Legit Football newsletter. That's where all of this comes from. All of the content we have all started from a single daily newsletter, which is our main product. It's 100% free. Go to legitfootball.com, sign up, and get your NFL news in 5 minutes or less Monday through Friday all year long. No mini camp, no training camp, no OTAs going on right now, Anthony. We don't care. We're still putting out the newsletter
Yes.
and podcasts and social content 5 days a week. That's what we do here at Legit Football. All right, Anthony, let's roll in to the second half. Go ahead and start that 15-minute timer. As the resident Dolphins fan, as part of the Legit Football family, I can't not record a podcast and not talk about the Tyreek Hill situation. Yeah. There's not a lot to cover, so I don't think we'll have to talk about it too long. I'll just share what my reaction was when it first came out and, with the latest news. So for those who don't know, Tyreek Hill was being investigated by Miami police for alleged assault. He was at a marina in Miami, apparently tried to board a boat without permission, got into an altercation with the marina employee, and apparently struck him, all while saying, "I could buy you and your boat." So my first reaction was, after so much hope as a Dolphins fan, everything starting to build. We get Jalen Ramsey. We get Vic Fangio. We draft the fastest running back to go with the fastest wide receiving core. Tua coming back healthy. Hopefully he stays healthy. Everything is arrow pointing way up for Miami. There's a lot of people starting to dark horse pick them to be an AFC contender for the Super Bowl just based on the talent in their roster. Mike McDaniel, complete believer. And then this happens. I'm like, this is what we can't have. We cannot have guys like Tyreek Hill going out there and flaunting their money and throwing their fists. Now, the guy didn't press charges. Came out today that they concluded their investigation and no criminal charges have been filed. So it looks like he'll be fine. It's possible the league could still suspend him at least for a few games based on the personal conduct policy. We'll have to wait to see about that. So a little bit of relief on that end, but it's like, we're so close. Imagine everything you're hyped up with the Lions right now, Anthony. And then, I don't know, Amon-Ra St. Brown gets arrested, right? Or
Right.
Aiden
It's
Hutchinson
like
or Jared Goff.
The Jameson Williams thing happened. I'm like, no, stop. Like, stop it. Like, why are we doing this?
Oh, that's
like,
right. I'm asking you, and it did happen because you guys had all those. They like to place bets in Detroit. Make cars and place bets, apparently.
Like, I get it. You're betting on college. He wasn't aware of the policy, but you have to be aware. It's in your contract. You know, it's all the. I mean, it was in the facility. Like, go across the street to a coffee shop and do it, and then you'd be fine. So,
and the NFL today put out really clear language on what is and what isn't allowed. They're also going to be holding, and I think maybe the teams are going to be holding educational opportunities for all of their players to make sure they know exactly what they can and can't do to get rid of that ambiguity. Because I believe it was in a hotel in a road game that Jameson got fined for, right? And suspended. Yeah. You muted yourself, by the way, before you started talking again.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it was him and two other teammates, and they just placed bets on March Madness, I believe it was. And I'm not sure, like, how it was found because they weren't using the Wi-Fi. Like, if they were connected to the Wi-Fi, that might change the story. But so I don't know, and we don't have to keep talking about.
We can't focus on how they got caught. I mean, they were still doing what they shouldn't have been doing. Right. We can argue whether that should be illegal or not, or illegal, against the policy of the NFL. But it's still in the rules. It's like, marijuana legalization. It shouldn't be illegal, but in certain parts, it's still illegal. Yeah. And if you know it, like, don't do it. Best Thomas Bray, Tom said the best wide receiver in trio in the league, arguably. I don't know if he's talking about the Dolphins or if he went back to Washington. Okay. I mean, with I guess our Panthers fan here, Thomas, knows a little bit about Robbie Chosen Anderson, who is now the deep threat. They're all deep threats to go with Tyreek and Waddle. But yeah, I don't want to dive into it too much because it's kind of seemed to be wrapped up already. I would not be surprised if there's some sort of fine and suspension from the league, maybe even like just a couple games. But man, just don't, guys, if you're Dolphins, if you're Lions, any of these teams that are like on the precipice, just stay in line.
You're getting paid so much money. Just take it.
Well, so much money he said he could buy the boat and the employee himself.
I wonder how much he paid him to not press charges. That's what.
That's a good. I don't care at this point. I don't care. Stop hitting people, Tyreek. All right, we got an AFC East to win. All right, I have another topic, but do you have anything you want to cover? We'll do the back and forth.
No, I want to hear yours.
All right, so the last thing I have on here, it's probably be about a 10-minute topic. Okay. We're doing this thing on Twitter and on Instagram, and Thomas is leading the charge in a lot of that, where we're trying to give fantasy insight. Teaser, by the way, we have a special fantasy edition, legit football, top 10 breakout candidates that we're going to be launching soon. And we'll tell you how you can get that. It's not going to be a normal edition. But anyway, within the context of this, I dug into a running back that I think is poised for a really, really big year. And that's Patriots running back Rhamondre Stevenson. Oh. So we did put a thread out on Twitter. I had Tom's put it out for us, but he got on my radar, and here's why. He's good. We know that. He actually finished his RB7 in PPR last year. This isn't like a super breakout sleeper going from 30 to top 10. But I have a feeling two factors here. One, Damian Harris is gone. He's in Buffalo. So Rhamondre Stevenson finished his RB7 with Damian Harris in the backfield. He's gone. Backfield's his. And number two, and maybe more importantly, like I don't think people are really considering how much Bill O'Brien likes to run the ball. I knew he liked to run the ball, and I wanted stats to back that up, so I looked it up on StatHead. During Bill O'Brien's time with the Texans, he was the head coach and the play caller. They were 6th in the NFL across 7 years, Anthony. So from 2014 to 2020, the years that Bill O'Brien was the play caller for the Houston Texans, they were 6th in rushing attempts. He literally ran the ball more than all but 5 other teams. So now you've got Rhamondre Stevenson, Very, very talented back, who, by the way, Bill Belichick loves. Apparently, he is a patriot, if you know what I mean by a patriot type guy, like Stevenson fits the bill. So you got the talent, you got the backing of the coaching staff, you have the opportunity and the targets and everything because Damian Harris is gone, and then you have a play caller who, at least in the past, has really leaned on the run game. So, I mean, we could be talking about, what I'm saying is maybe Rhamondre Stevenson RB1 at the end of the season. I think that's within the realm of possibility.
So, bit of a hot take there. I like it. I like that take though because I agree.
Thomas is totally going to use that as the clip on Instagram. He clips our quotes on this. But hey, I looking into this, like it's not 7-1. It's actually a very real possibility to me.
It is, especially if they're going to stick with Mac Jones. They're going to have to depend on the run game.
They still don't have a true wide receiver one. Maybe Nuke Hopkins goes there. Even if he does, he's still in his 30s. Their most talented offensive player is Rhamondre Stevenson.
Right.
You're going to have to score points and keep up in that AFC. Go to your best weapon, Rhamondre. And all signs point to this guy having a monster year.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if you're doing a redraft, I would draft Rhamondre Stevenson. They're talking about fantasy. I did have him in my league, and he won me games because he was just scoring points. Like, he wasn't as consistent as I'd like, but he was scoring points. I was getting 14, 15 points from him each week. And that was just from yards. He didn't have an incredible season, but he was consistent. And now he's controlling the backfield, as you said. So now this is his opportunity to really break out. So I agree with you.
So in PPR, I just looked it up. I like to look up half-point PPR because I think that's what most people are playing nowadays. Half-point PPR, he's going as RB10 and number 26 overall. So he's going at the back end of the second round. This guy already finished RB7 with that disaster of an offense. Matt Patricia running the offense. Mac Jones looking horrible. Bailey Zappi getting some play. Finished RB7 in that environment. But now he's being drafted as RB10 at the back end of the second round. Like, to me, this screams value here, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Overall, but the rest, overall running back, standard RB10, regular PPR RB9. He got an extra 1 point bump there. He wasn't really on my radar. That's why I'm emphasizing this. Thomas is delayed. I feel like he's still talking about Sam Howell. His final year at UNC was barred because of bad protection. Yes, their offensive line did get worse. Hopefully everybody's not like too delayed and they're still hearing me talk about Sam Howell on some weird loop.
I'm talking about Sam Howell for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Even I would get tired of that. But yeah, so he wasn't necessarily on my radar. I don't have him in any of my dynasty leagues, which is one of the reasons he's not on my radar much. But I think in redraft, I'm gonna target him pretty heavily, especially at that ADP, unless that changes.
Absolutely, and if you don't put him at RB1, put him on RB2 or flex. I mean, he's gonna be getting numbers for you. He's the starter, so you're gonna have something. But I agree with you. He's going to really connect with that offense. Bill Belichick loves him. He's a Patriot. And last time there was a true Patriot, he won Super Bowl. So I think that I agree with you completely. Rhamondre Stevenson will break out.
So do you have any guys that are on your radar for a redraft or just in general, guys that you're targeting? They can be rookies. They can be ascending players, guys in better situations. Any fantasy guys that you have your eyes on, Anthony?
Yeah, it's going to hurt to say, but TJ Hockenson with the Vikings. I think that they figured out how to use him in that offense, and now they're going to play it out. They made that trade because they knew that he could be a big step in that offense, and he's a good player. I've watched him play for Detroit for a while. He got drafted high. He's still consistent. He's a big guy. He can block. He can catch. He can do it all. He's a good ball carrier. There's that play, like it's got to be like a top 20 play from last season against the Vikings, actually, when he was with the Lions. And I think if Kirk Cousins can do as good as some of us think he will, he's going to target Hockenson when Jefferson's covered or Osborne is covered. Like, he's going to be available for Kirk Cousins to pass to, and he's going to be making those plays that they traded for him to make. And so
you could also be making an argument for a rookie breakout season from Jordan Addison for those very same reasons. Jefferson covered. Although, honestly, let's be honest, it doesn't matter if Jefferson's covered. Just throw him the ball.
Right.
Osborne covered. Addison manning the slot over the middle of the field, which also is some of the territory that Hockenson occupies. Maybe Jordan Addison is a rookie to pay attention to.
I like that because I mean, and I like him as a player too. And so you do that 2 tight end thing, and I mean, Hockenson's going to be the starter. He's going to be getting a lot of targets. I think I still have him on my fantasy. I didn't let bias get the best of me, and so it's weird to like root for someone in the same division, but I'm still rooting for TJ. Like I still want him to have a good career. We left on good terms. Like I think everything's okay there. I think he's a good player, and everyone's always disagreed with me. I'm like, now he's with the team who wants to use him to the extent that he could be used. And I don't think Detroit had the offense that Hockenson could fit in. And so when that trade happened, I'm like, oh no, it's a Stafford thing all over again. Not really, because it's 11 years versus 3, but I think that he's a better fit in Minnesota, and we're going to see that. So I see Hockenson breaking out in Minnesota.
Quick question. We got 2 minutes left. This is a topic I've had on my list of topics for the past maybe month, and we just haven't dove into it. So I think with just under 2 minutes left, it's primed for that. How do you think the Browns are going to do this year?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know, because every time we think they're going to do bad, they do good. Every time we think they're going to do good, they do bad. And so it's a hit or miss, but their offense seems to have a lot of talent, and they've added to their defense. Deshaun Watson, he's a hit or miss at this point. He was so good in Houston that I think that we're kind of stuck in like his glory days, that we can't sit here and think, is he any good anymore?
For his stretch, he was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire NFL last year. This was not one game. And this was a guy, he didn't have the system and he was rusty. He got to practice in the preseason. He got to play in the preseason. He got to participate in training camp. He got up to speed. He just couldn't play. Like once week 1 started, then he was on his 11-game suspension. And he came in and he was not just average. He was awful. His PFF grade was in like the 50s. And it was because he was jittery. He was inaccurate. He was holding the ball too long. He just was making bad decisions. Everything you can think bad with the quarterback. To me, that's not rust. I could be way off on this, and I'm not even talking about the off the field stuff, which is I've got my own feelings about him because of that. That out of the picture. If I have to make a prediction, I kind of think that they're going to be bad because Deshaun Watson's going to be bad again, and I think it goes by the quarterback. They did great things in the offseason. The roster looks stacked on offense and defense. I think Watson's going to be the reason that holds them up and probably misses the playoffs in a crazy tough AFC.
All right. It's going to be in headlines. Deshaun Watson, downfall of Cleveland. Because I agree.
They can't do anything. They have to stick with him because he's got, $230 million guaranteed. They paid all the draft capital. They sewed their own bed there. Sewing their own bed. That's not a normal. It is time to end the show on that note. Anthony, post-game press conference, you were a sub, you got called in off the bench. How do you feel you performed?
I feel like I did great. We discussed a lot of it's so hard to talk about this stuff in the offseason because there's really not a lot going on. So when we find things that are interesting and we can talk about what's coming, because the season's coming up, it's going to come up fast. I know summer just started, but you know how time flies, especially when you're a football fan. So I think that I did good. You did good. We covered a lot of bases here. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Armand with a shout out for you in the chat. Produces the show and gets up and hits a nice home run when he's called upon. I say the home run. You got the Tigers there. See, I gave you a little nod to your baseball uniform there. All right, that's going to wrap it up, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening or watching this for the first time. We do this every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Thank you to my producer, Anthony Wayner, for being in front of the camera, in front of the mic to talk a little football with me. My name is Brian McFadden. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. Stay tuned for Legit Football Pod this weekend on Saturday. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Why do you hate Tyreek Hill?
Wow, I see.
Another spoiler, Justin Herbert is on my hot seat.
Yeah, as bad as the Bucs were, they still had Tom Brady.